honors credit because you're not in high school, but we are equivalent to an honors course. Gentlemen, can one of you just put that where it belongs? Or just leave it? Because you're not in high school. Like, and I'm not certified to teach honors. Why are you, like, up in my face? Can you sit down and we have a conversation about what we want to do? Alright, just got it. Top priority for today. That's the top priority. No. Top priority for today is take any closure questions that you have because I was not here yesterday to field them. Then, hang on. Then we got to figure out when we want to take that mastery, not today. Now, technically, grade cutoff, well, at least 7th grade, how we're operating. Grade cutoff is Thursday. This Thursday.
Oh.
Mastery deadline is next Thursday.
Wait, what?
So when we stop assigning quarter 2 work is Thursday. When all quarter work has to be back next Thursday. Right? Difference between grade cutoff and mastery deadline. I have to have assigned, I have to have given everything by Thursday, Friday, really, to be quarter 2. Like, I can't give you something next Tuesday and say this is quarter 2 because mastery deadline is Thursday, right? It'd be 2 days away. That wouldn't be fair. So, and this is working out very dangerously because how the vote keeps going. We have 2 options. We can either start your mastery tomorrow, depending on, I have not been doing great at guessing how long things will take. Depending on how long it takes, it'd be tomorrow and potentially Thursday. Hopefully done by Thursday. If, lofty goals, I get everything graded Thursday night, get it back to you guys on Friday, so you still have the weekend to do revisions. Now, that said, I had the last masteries to come back. That's part of also what we're doing today is getting those back and probably spending some time revising that. Next Thursday. So a week from 2 days, 9 days from now.
Where are you? Where I am.
Time to pay.
Where do you guys go?
So,
and then I went back.
Think about that for a moment.
And then I realized I didn't get my math practice.
So that would be mastery tomorrow, right? And I would expect, by the way, I thought I asked for homework from chapter 4, but got 2 things from 2 people.
Wait, what?
I
thought you already said it before. You did ask
Yeah, maybe I wrote it down somewhere and lost that paper. Yeah, I did, because then I asked for other stuff.
You asked me to do it. Wait, you got mine, right?
I don't know, but I can't. So I think that was on me, which is fine. I'm not saying that's cause panic for you guys, but I probably won't put it in math because I think we're all okay at this point. I had it written down. I just never put it in math. You have feedback from me.
Let's skip the whole problem.
Didn't we turn
Yeah, I skipped
when we had a
Wait,
set?
you all got mastery.
That was the one where
You did not all
Let's
get
skip
mastery.
the whole problem.
So this is a quarter 2 grade. This is in MAP as of this morning. So if you are progressing, that is just straight up revisions. Guys, I probably did check it, and it's probably in my paper key or paper grade book somewhere. But it's okay that we can't find it right now. So all of that to say, really the thought that was in my head was I do want your chapter 5 work. So I'm essentially going to work the system this way. I am just going to put in 1 grade that says quarter 2 practice work, which if you have all of 5 done to turn in, you're good. I will trust that everything else has been fine. If not, then I might ask to see some of your previous work and what you've been doing from the other chapters, or how is your binder organized, could be part of that conversation. How is your plan book organized, be part of that conversation. But I do, I got eyes not looking at me, and that concerns me. I do need your chapter 5 work by Thursday. Okay, because regardless, we're starting the mastery by Thursday. We might start it tomorrow. We're starting it by Thursday. Your work should be done. Right? So I don't know that I'm going to assign any new homework tonight. We're often pushing very quickly, and as Satya, I hear your complaints. I hear you loud and clear about moving fast. I said I may not assign any other homework tonight.
No, I'm just worried when you move fast on tests because I'm a really slow test taker.
Dude, the most I can really give you guys is 2 days work, even for a difficult
I'll
test.
do AO then.
What it comes down to, man, is if you have mastered a skill and have confidence, which I think is the thing hanging up, you're not confident, you fight with yourself. If you've mastered a skill and you're confident, it should only take you a certain amount of time. Right now, taking longer doesn't mean you haven't mastered it. I mean, you don't have that confidence yet.
I always second guess myself.
So-
and I end up being right when I second guess.
Wait, can we
myself.
do our homework now?
Give me a second. So, what we have to decide is, do we start your test tomorrow or start your test Thursday?
Tomorrow.
The thing I would caution you is, if we don't start till Thursday, you won't get them back till Monday, and it's still quarter 2. And most of you do revisions pretty quick. You get it back, it's your top priority, you get it done, yay. Alternatively, we also have to decide what we want to do today. But let's first decide when do we want to take the test. So close your eyes, quote unquote. I don't know. Hands up if you want to start the test tomorrow. Just get going and get it done. Okay, that wins.
I lied.
So
Why do we close our eyes when
today,
we do that?
I mean, half of us
because
don't
sometimes that impacts, like, oh, everyone's voting this way. Or some people will be like, oh, no, I want to vote against everybody.
Peer pressure.
Yeah, it's peer pressure. Whether you
Yeah.
want to go with it or against it, it's all peer pressure. So, today I want to field closure questions and the other Chapter 5 questions. And if we have time to dabble into 6.1.1, we will, but there won't be any technical assigned homework. So again, for today, and I should have made your thing over there diagonal, we'll just say that finish Chapter 5 closure and any of your Chapter 5 work is your homework for today. Ideally, you should be able to turn in your homework today or tomorrow.
Wait, why
I
did
need it by Thursday because it kind of spans 2 days. The catch-up day is Wednesday, that we're not like having any new homework. So if they aren't done with their closure tonight, like if they do not get that assignment done, they can push it to the next day, but then it needs to be done. Right? Their homework's all getting collected Thursday too. That's why I kind of did that with the board over there. So, top priority, closure questions, because you have the answer key for the closure, and if you can't get to the answer, even knowing what the answer is, that's concerning. We should take care of that.
537 speed. That's the only question we have.
37 or 137?
130.
I just double checking, dude. I'm just wanted to be clear.
You know what I meant.
I didn't, because sometimes my 7th graders are asking about homework that was like a week and a half ago, and they are literally talking about 100 questions.
Sometimes my 7 does. Why is there a bunch of things here?
What? Oh, kid was sharpening his pencil and it popped open. Yeah.
Literally pop or? Oh my god.
Like,
doesn't matter.
Stop, man.
I do not know if it made a popping noise, maybe.
What?
So, I noticed something peculiar about this problem here.
Oh, never mind. I could have just factored some stuff.
Every term involves a y.
Yeah.
And every term involves an x.
All.
And every term is even.
I know. I could have factored out.
No, you don't.
I just kind of look deeper into some stuff.
Correct.
A lot deeper.
No, it'd be 3. It would be 3y.
Yeah, because it's y squared.
Oh, really?
Sometimes I just gotta look in the deeper stuff.
But you can't factor it further.
Not easily.
I don't think so.
It would be hard,
I mean, you
Can we
but you
deal
have to
with-
divide the whole thing by y.
which would make it harder.
Now, some things we dealt with, like back in chapter 4, were like difference of squares. Do you remember when they would throw you a problem that was like x squared minus y squared, something like that? And we could deal with that, right? Because we would have x plus y, x minus y, and the middle xy terms cancel each other out. The outer and the inner, positive xy, negative xy. So we get negative y squared, positive x squared. We can deal with it, but this isn't y squared. And since I know that in a trinomial, that's the product of the lasts, unless I'm going to use like square root of y, which won't make my inside and outside terms any better. I think that's as far as we can go.
Yeah, I just had to look deeper into it.
So realize it doesn't say factor into binomials. It doesn't it just says factor. So we're just trying to figure out what is common that I can pull out.
Okay, so don't second guess yourself. Look deeper.
Confidence comes with practice, man.
I have more confidence in the movie here, though. So.
Or we're just not confident.
Hey,
True.
don't like. No.
Hey,
Not-
we don't say that.
All right, what else? You don't do that here. Didn't
5142.
142? For what it's worth, by the way, because I am trying to more often show appreciation, thank you for being the type of students that you guys are, because when I was back and forth, we'll leave out details yesterday morning trying to get sub-plans written, it was nice to know that I could essentially type, here's what they need to do, tell them what they need to do, and let them work. Like, essentially don't get in their way. It's nice to be able to do that, so thank you. Oh, this is a fun one. So 212 students enrolled at Geometry West Valley High School. Who would go to a high school named Geometry?
No one.
I mean, I would. I wonder if they're the geodes. Geometry geodes. All right, so of these,
You crack them in half to get something beautiful.
of these, 64 are freshmen, 112 are sophomores. If a random geometry student is chosen, what is the chance in percent that the student is a freshman or sophomore?
So you just do like 64 plus 112, and then about, wait, hold on, what would that be?
Now, it wants us to use the addition rule. So yes, what you're saying is right, but if we want to use the addition rule, we can show 64 out of 212, 112 out of 212, add the fractions together, and then calculate the
Those are
percent.
literally the same things.
Yeah. It's just saying show the addition rule. So that's what, I didn't say anything you said was wrong. I said it was right. I'm just saying if we need to show the addition rule, we want to write it out.
Why when did we learn the addition?
It's just, so it's like percent of and versus percent of or.
Okay.
So this is percent of or, which if we want to be particular, is a union problem. Right, so let's review this, because I was tutoring a student the other night and I realized like union and intersection often are difficult for you guys to keep straight. A union problem involves an or, and they're two distinct groups. They could overlap, but they may not. They're two different groups. An intersection problem is an and. We end up having to multiply, and it's overlapping groups. So if I ask you what's the probability of a geometry student being a freshman and sophomore, those groups don't overlap. Right? That doesn't make sense to ask as an intersection question. But asking as a union question, what's the percent of a freshman or sophomore, that's where the addition rule comes in of this is a union, this plus this, and then we show that, and then common denominator. So yeah, we're just going to end up with the sum on top divided by 212, and then we find the percent.
Okay.
It's just making sure you remember union. So, hang on just a second. Then 114 of the geometry students perform in band, and 56 perform in chorus. There's a 75% chance that they perform in either. So, what's the percent chance they perform in neither? 25, right? 25% of them don't do any of that. What is the probability a geometry student performs both in band and in chorus?
So you have to do 75 times 75.
So that's the and situation.
Yeah.
Right? So then we have probability of band times probability of choir.
It's chorus.
Chorus. When I said chorus, you said choir.
Yeah.
So, really, we can't say the 75%. So be careful, because you just said it's 75 times 75. We actually have to take the actual values we know.
Make 75.
No.
What?
Because that's either. That is the and. Or, sorry, that is the or. What's the chance they perform in band or choir?
No, it's not.
These. So does this say both?
It says and.
No. Either.
No, yeah. I'm wrong. Never mind.
I'm proud of you to be able to just outrightly say, I am wrong.
No, but this is
Oh,
So, Satya, what they did was the probability of band plus the probability of chorus gave us this.
Yeah.
But that doesn't have anything to do with one of these individually. It has to do with them together. So when we get asked the and situation, I can't make this eraser smaller. That has to be probability of band times probability of chorus. So what we then have to do is say, well, the probability of band is 114 out of 212. Probability of chorus, 56 out of 212. And it will be a small number, because your denominator is going to get very large.
5.
Like to the tune of like 5,000 probably.
Isn't it like 5?
No, you have the answers in your book, literally.
Hold on, what question is this?
Oh, well, I don't know.
Closure 142.
Yeah, I wrote about 5. It goes like
About 5%.
Yeah.
Careful, make sure you have that percent sign there.
No.
Where are the other pages?
Wait, no, I don't think it's percent.
Yeah.
Okay, what's percent?
You were
I don't know. I didn't write it down. I wasn't done.
Stop while you're ahead.
I'm not ahead. That's what you don't.
Yeah, 5.2%. Put that in yourself. So, but the way that we have to get there, that still has an issue. Because if I just do that multiplication, I don't get 5%. What is the problem with an intersection problem?
You get both.
What do you mean we get both?
Okay, so I'm trying to figure out. I don't want to. Oh yeah, the table. So like, can I come up there?
No.
It's so okay. Go got the square.
You can't talk it out, I'm sorry, but you're not going to be able to draw it out.
No, like.
There's one word that tells us what the problem is.
Uniform.
I need. Union.
If I look at the probability of being in band, these are my 1 out of 14 students. I probably made that a little bit too big.
The band boys.
Yeah.
Then, probability of being in choir are these kids. There are kids in choir, not in band. There are kids in band, not in choir. What's the issue with what I've done right here? They overlap.
Yeah, that's what I said.
No, you didn't.
I said union.
That's
You
not
said
a union. A union is two distinct things that we
Should've
add
said they
together.
overlap.
Intersection is where.
That's an intersection, not a union. A union would be like, what's the probability that they're not in a choir, not in band, or a band, not in choir? Like,
So it's the entirety of both roads, right? No.
so this overlapping portion right here is the problem where we overcount. But that actually then, so this, we have to take away the overlap. Now, do we know what, okay, so first let's calculate this, I guess. So what's that, those fractions multiplied by each other?
Big number over small number. I mean, small number over bigger number.
You're a genius.
I know. It's a fraction. The bottom number is even. The top number is also even. I can tell you that.
I'm trying to find a problem again.
The top number is over 1,000. The bottom number is over 1,000. The top number is less than 1,000,000. The bottom number is less than 1,000,000.
You're a genius.
I've given you.
Satya, all you're doing right now is making noise. I love you, dude, but at some point you gotta get your classroom behavior straight. Either get a calculator and actually contribute to the conversation, or no offense, but shut up.
Okay.
Like, seriously. At some point, some teacher has to give it to you straight, and I'm okay to be that teacher. You're smart and you're a bright kid. We love it. We love you. But when you just sit there and do not put in effort, you're like, that number is this number is it's nothing, dude. You're doing nothing. Literally, for yourself or anybody else. So all of you sitting here just waiting for this to happen, get a freaking calculator. Do something. If you don't know how to solve this, do something.
I got calculated for you guys yesterday.
Yeah, you
the
can
big
always
one.
grab them from behind my desk if you want. So that's our probability, which if we do the division,
There you go.
we get 14.2%.
Thank you,
So,
sir.
Steven,
I
I got one for you yesterday.
Did anyone get one?
In this meeting.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
That was yesterday. Today's today.
We're calculating.
Yeah.
Well, that's a cool number. 44944. Probably something. What? 6.
So the work we then have to do, I need to erase some of this. That 75% they gave me also involves the overcounting. Now, this and percentage is fine to have the intersection because we want the both groups. right? But that's not actually what we're trying to calculate. Well, it's tough here because we don't know individual. So here's the issue with what we just calculated. That 14.2% would be if there's 114 students that are only in band and 56 students that are only in chorus. We know some of them share. So this is 14.2. This is not an accurate percent value. So where this problem actually gets difficult, and if you look at your answer, well, I don't know exactly what it shows you. If you have your book, flip 2 pages or however many pages, look at what it shows you in your answer key. I'm curious what you have compared to what I have. The or, the union of this problem. So you flip past closure. Yeah. So that 75%, that or overcounts. And the easiest way to figure out the and, since they've told me all other information, 56, is here. I guess I'll do it in purple to show what we're talking about. That overlapping region is your both, right? Which is good, but we need to figure it out. Because if I just add, I'm going to have all of green plus all of red, right? And I have too much. So if I add these up, yes, you can do it without a calculator. 114 plus 56.
170.
We get 170 over 212. What percent is that?
0.8. It's like 80. 83. 0.801.
801.
Yeah. What? Hold on. What's about
Now,
higher than 83%?
They told us the or is 75%. So what does that tell me about the both?
It's around 5.
It's around 5. That's how we do it.
Oh,
Now, if we get really nitty gritty, we can find out how many students are only in band and only in choir and how many are in both. And we could calculate this another way if we know how many are in both. The dangerous thing with what we did before was that wasn't really valid data. That 14% didn't make sense. That's why I wanted to show those different ways. So remember, the union... Okay, so this is where union is complicated and why people struggle with it. If the two sets are distinct, freshman, sophomore, union can just add, and there's no extra work to do because it's good. They're distinct. But if the union overlaps, we have to subtract. So if I ask you what's probably being a freshman or a sophomore, you subtract the overlap, which is nothing. There's no overlap, freshman, sophomore.
0.
Band, choir, there can exist overlap, so we have to look at what needs subtracted. So anytime you might want to make a note in your notes or somewhere, like a union problem has to get rid of the extra. Now sometimes there is no extra, but you have to think about it. So if I ask you what's the probability they're a freshman and in band, or a freshman or in band, would freshman and band potentially have overlap?
No. Wait.
Could there be freshmen in band?
Yes.
Yes. So we would have to think about overlap. Right? If I ask you what's the chance that they're a freshman or a girl, of course there could be overlap. There's freshmen girls. If I ask you what's the chance they're a freshman or in senior lit, well, if it's a senior class, like no, there's no overlap. So we
Wait,
wouldn't have.
what if they're a freshman and that was doing?
You're talking special circumstances. Okay?
Yeah.
Which you need to stop putting so much of your brain effort into the special circumstances that you can ask the what if questions and get the what we have questions. Because could you solve that on your own? If not, quit spending mental effort on what ifs. Okay? Like we're getting to the point of the year where I'm just going to be real clear with you guys. Like if you're doing something that's not helping you learn, I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
This note's not as important for your class because you don't have very many books, but I'm making this offer for all of my classes. In the next 2.5 weeks, we need to bring back every textbook that is part of like Mr. Hudson's math classes to check inventory, and then we're going to get a bit more detailed on what book you can take in or out of this class. If we, before winter break, have every textbook returned to this room, then at some point after winter break, because it's a long stretch of school, all we really have is like Martin Luther King Day in there where we get a day off, but like it's a long stretch of school, we will have some sort of party. Donuts or pizza or whatever you want.
Work today because we're behind.
Oh,
Sure, you can do work during that day.
No.
So, now, what that means is if we're missing a 7th grade textbook, you don't get a party.
What the heck?
Sorry, what I'm saying for my students, because my other classes share their books, so really what that means is help encourage the 7th graders to get their books back. We need every textbook back on my rack. So if you see a book in the family room, bring it back. If you see somebody like with a book out the hallway around, hey, that needs to be back by winter break. Like over winter break, probably on that discovery day, I'm going to inventory my books, figure out what's missing, and if anything is missing, then
Okay, I got my book.
Dude.
And you broke 2 others.
you broke your classmates. So right now, if you're not ready to turn in Chapter 5 work, you should be working on whatever you need to be, but what other questions do we have? What else can I help you with? You asking if you can work on it or if I can help you? You can totally work on it.
Okay,
If you want to talk with me, give me a minute of wait time, because I think people might have more questions and they're just not asking them. Is that your closure? That, right? That paper. What is that paper?
This?
That, the blank one.
This?
Totally, yeah.
This is the horn I started in class and finished at home. Supposed to have a blank template as homework.
I was about to say, so started in
He-
class. That doesn't really.
Yeah, he started.
So, like, next time we have a...
And
Next
then,
time we have
and then
a-
I left it along with
Yeah, I
the
just do this
class,
every time.
So I just taped it right
I'm
over
gonna do
there.
that for like chapter 6 homework.
Turns out we skipped
Did somebody get it? Like, did somebody take it already, or is it still there?
So,
That was...
Oh,
I did it
Carpenter.
Yeah.
You found that I found your binder.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do the whole chapter 6 one.
I left my math
There's a chapter 4 closure here involving quadratics, which I assume is our class.
Is it a bad written?
That looks like mine.
That is not. Wait, no, I turned my chapter 4 stuff in.
Yeah, that's my handwriting.
And I think the rest of this would not be you guys.
Yeah, because I have good handwriting.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Any other questions from chapter 5? Or I'm going to help Jacob with this test.
No, is this the wrong answer, or is that just a question mark?
Okay, so let's talk about C. What number is that?
9.
I don't have it, but I think you actually took it
I
out of
just
the room.
figured it out.
9C can be solved, but I've made it a freebie.
9.
So, for just like some restrictions on your answers, guys, it should be bigger than 20.
Yeah, I just
If you gave me an answer less than 20, come on. It's the longest side of that triangle. Also, it's got to be less than 28. Because, come on, triangle inequality rule. But then it can actually be solved.
Is the answer?
What is
the question on this?
Let me double check it.
Mr. Hudson, my question is more like
Hang on, I'm in the middle of checking something for Levi. I will help you, just give me a second. No. So, for what it's worth, not that you need to care about this, it is 25.88. If you can, now I'm not counting that as part of the grade. I just made it a freebie because I realized it was too hard. The rest of them can totally be solved. B, you can drop an altitude and make a special right triangle.
Hi, back up over.
Which one is the?
9.
9
Wait,
B, you can drop an altitude. D should
Oh,
be pretty
wait,
straightforward.
so that's how you do this.
Yeah, you drop an altitude, make it a
Okay.
special.
So that's how.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
barely.
No, it's.
I've been denied. I see that.
Alright, I guess if we don't have more Chapter 5 homework questions, what questions from the assessment So
Oh, I see
by
what I did.
What's the assessment?
the one I just handed back to you.
That's a test.
Yeah, test and assessment are synonymous.
Probably right.
Fight me, let's look it up.
No, I just said you're probably right.
Oh,
So this problem right here, I'm making a freebie, but I'm going to leave that as just a floating challenge. Can you figure out a way to solve that problem?
Oh, see?
I made it a freebie for now.
Everyone look for their books
Now,
and trace
here's
back.
the deal. I will straight tell you the answer is 25.88. I don't care about if you got the right answer. What I care about is how you got there. Now, you don't need to do this. It is like, that's like an honors level question, but it can be solved. Saying it can't is malarkey. Just like looking at B and saying, well, I can't solve that because it's not a right triangle. Make it one.
Okay. So
Drop the altitude, and we have a 30/60.
Nathan has his book.
Okay.
Jacob has his book.
Chris has mine.
Satya has his.
Guys, we have 2.5 weeks. This is not pertinent on today.
Who's in chapter 8?
Satya, are you ready to turn in all homework to me for chapter 5?
It's not at home, but yeah.
Yeah, I do. I'm going to do it.
Here, I'll turn in the one that
No, do not turn in half of them. Okay? When you turn in your homework, they need to be in order and all together, like not missing assignments. Otherwise, you're making my job way too hard. Other questions from this mastery. Actually, this might be in a different order than what you guys did. I was forgiving on number 6. Let's talk, actually, give me your attention for a minute. Let's talk about number 6. So the question ended up being, what's the angle of descent? And you know how far away they are from the runway, and you know how high up they are. And some of you,
I was attacked by an evil fairy.
gave me the answer of approximately 84 degrees. Which would mean that plane is coming at a landing angle
My guy.
approximately like that. So, what?
As Artemis Fowl
Now-
private jet approaches.
Now, funny enough, there are times when planes go into really deep dives to do parabolic arcs to mimic no gravity.
I wrote
Because
84.
If you descend at the same rate as gravity pulls you down at, you can cancel out the force of gravity inside the plane. There's an OK Go video about this.
Wait.
But what do you think happened? So if you were one of the people who answered 84,
84 is
what?
not it.
No, it's not.
Yeah, you wrote a check mark.
Yes, I know, because I was forgiving. If you'd like me to be a jerk while grading your assessments, I can be.
I think that's
I can
what
say,
he's asking
Satya,
for.
they're dead. Try again. What
That was the
happened?
wrong angle.
What do you mean the wrong angle?
Like, it would be 6, because, like,
I
I
got
always get
6.
confused.
it would be 6, because one angle would be 84.
the angle of descent is the angle compared to the horizon,
Yeah.
not the angle compared to the vertical.
No.
So when you make that triangle, it should really, this angle down here should be 6 degrees, and or this angle out here. But a lot of you, I think, found this angle and gave me that.
What
as
if he's
84.
getting help from the fairies?
Satya.
He's not.
Remember,
You're doing
fairies
it.
don't like him yet.
But they're in the book.
Satya,
They don't like him.
you're doing it.
Shut up.
I was making a joke
That's,
about the
I
book.
don't
We're
care. We're doing math.
Satya, you still Satya. The fairies were cut up by the turbines in the airplane.
Actually, if you haven't watched Sully, the movie about Captain Sullenberger, who landed the plane on the Hudson River.
I know.
I actually saw that over the weekend or at some point. It was like on TV. A really good
So
movie.
cool.
If you've ever thought about which first off, pilots are really underpaid for what they do, right? They're flying a giant tube of people from place to place. Now they don't do a whole lot. Once you get up in the air, you're on autopilot. You essentially take off and land. But there was an emergency situation. They flew through a flock of geese, totally killed the turbines. And normally you can run even one of those giant planes on a single engine. Both engines failed.
Yeah, and he was able to land it safely.
And the thing is, he had to. So what gets really interesting is not just the fact that he was able to land it safely, But when it goes into the litigation after the trial of could you have done this or that, the math says he made the wrong choice. He could have made it back to an airport. He could have done this. He could have done that. The math essentially was saying, like, dude, you put a plane in the river and you had other options. Without ruining the movie, when it comes down to it, human instinct and reaction time changes the math, right? Having to actually think through, do step 1, do step 2, do step 3, check this, check that. Now make a decision, like human reaction time. So it's really interesting because in the court trial, like it went to trial, there he's having to defend, like, yeah, the computer says this, but it's wrong. Like the computer says he could have made it back to an airport. Like drifting on no engines, he could have made it. But if he didn't make it, you crash a plane in New York City.
Wait, who is?
So human decision, like it's a really good movie. You have the opportunity to watch it.
There was a possibility he could have made it back, but he would have had to react immediately.
And,
Yeah.
Yep.
and not care about the other end of
Yeah.
the probability that I
the
don't
decision
make
he made
it.
was the safer decision.
Because like he would be in shock. There's no way he could be like tough condition.
Well, no, actually, interviews with him and the co-pilot, like, they essentially, like, you're trained for this sort of thing, where, like, you're essentially going through a checklist of, like, have we done this, have we tried it, and you're radioing the tower, right, and they're checking your data, and they're checking your like, the trig, literally the math, the trig. They're like, what we talk about here, that's what is happening between the tower and the plane, and the tower is saying, like, you have this airport at this bearing this far away, right, and quickly, the captains have to think about, okay, can we get there? No, we can't get there. Okay, you have this airport at this bearing, this direction, this far away. Can we get there? There's a river.
Do you know what's book number 8?
That's my book.
You need to write your name on it.
Mr. Hudson made it for me. He never wrote my name on it.
I made the cover for you. You get to decorate it. All right, so we have 6 minutes left. Please make sure you're ready to turn in all your Chapter 5 homework. Yeah, more questions from the math sheet? Okay. Which one?
Yes.
No,
I'm done with mine, but I just have to label the whole thing.
Oh, and the biggest, most amazing thing is no one's ever made a water landing like that where there were, like, 0 injuries. Like, some people got, like, jostled around, but nobody died. Nobody even had serious injuries. It was, like, amazing. No one. Everybody made it off the plane fine. A couple people, like, jumped and were trying to swim. It's like, where are you swimming to? That's really far away, and the water's really cold. So there were some cases, like, hypothermia and stuff like that. It was cold. Like, whenever it happened, it was cold water.
Okay.
Interesting movie. Watch it if you can.
Thomas has
It's
the
real.
book.
What
Levi
question?
has
No, I'm
the
going to do it up here. What question?
what's the question mark?
Did you do that problem?
I did.
Where? Was I able to find it? Probably not. I'm probably not that smart.
Hunter.
No, I found that one. I just can't
Hunter.
remember.
You need to find your book.
Oh, it's another one.
Yeah, so you get approximately 6 degrees, and I think it tells you around.
Sonja,
Here.
you realize
Yeah,
you
that's
have to
that
depend
question,
on
right?
the 7th graders too, right?
Yeah, that's
Even
probably a
if you find
me.
books,
It's a
all my
me
books are-
issue. I don't know where my grading
Prison's
went.
right here.
Okay, we got all of our books. We're
Is
good.
that number 9?
No, the whole grade
It
has
has
it.
it.
I don't care.
Even
These
the
have a
7th
weird
grade.
box on
It's
it.
the 7th.
Now, I might make special consideration for you guys, since you don't share, like, I know you don't have a CC2 book at your house, right? Like a 7th grade book. I know you haven't taken one of those home. So I might make some special consideration. But right now, operate under the premise, as I'm telling all my 7th graders, we need every book back on my rack.
Did any of the 7th graders think that the 8th graders weren't going to get it?
They don't even think about you guys. Like,
They don't
there's still a lot of them that are confused when I say I teach 8th grade and or when I say I teach high school. Like, they're like, wait, you teach high school? I was like, yeah, 2 8th graders. I'm like, wait, you teach 8th graders?
There's no wire.
They just don't pay attention. Come on, they're operating on their schedule. They don't know that you are in here. They don't know what I'm doing right now.
Oh, we knew the 8th graders were in there because we'd always get too loud during the and you guys tell us to be quiet.
Yeah.
I always
Yeah, what
thought
happened
this
to
class
the
was
schedule?
just like 8th grade kids or like 6th grade kids coming here, and I was like,
You knew they were 8th grade.
yeah, I knew they were 8th grade kids until I was like, wait a minute, I see that person, I know they're in 8th grade.
We've had this conversation. I don't know why.
I
Stop erasing.
That is what I thought.
Step one.
Yeah, I did. You don't know what I
Okay,
thought.
stop crossing stuff out.
I know
The
what I
first
thought.
thing that we, like, the first reason to do this is to see what you did wrong. Like, that's important.
I used
And leave it. And then somewhere else do it correctly. So you're not trying to cram stuff together. I like your like conservativeness of use of paper. Dude, we got plenty of
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
In the future, stop writing revisions on the same paper.
Okay, guys.
Okay? Alright.
Mr. Rusty, can I go?
No.
I hope you can.
Ashley said
I am very
17 media.
on the second hand.
Oh
yeah.
Were you
And then
the last
Were you
two?
signed to one?
Yes.
Oh,
And then the last two.
your name.
I know how to do.
So I think you were
On
the
the
first
rest-
paper that I graded. I'm actually making that a
There was one
freebie.
person,
On the rest of them, I didn't circle or anything. Like, I like what you said up there. For what it's worth, I like that you at least define that much.
She probably like asked what it was.
I have to check my key.
My username is Beth.
I forget. I grade too many tests.
Oh, that's your user.
Not you, not you.
I was
Water
in first
below.
place for 19 of them. And then
Can I go?
the last two questions.
No. First question I got.
I mean, you're still 2 minutes early, but yes, go ahead. You're up 6.74. It's the special right triangle.
For
rule,
11,
but-
for some reason, I didn't add 10. I think I did like this one, they took it like as a smaller.
So that's when you think, does my answer make sense?
Yeah, because I didn't check over it again because it's supposed to be bigger than the 10.
That's when you ask yourself, does it make sense? Is that everything then?
Yeah, that was all the stuff on there.
All right, thank you, bud. We'll throw some checks on this and then get you in those in mastery.
I would never.
Jacob, if you have like a minute, I can just change this map right now and then you can have it back.